Well, as you can see, I've got the club bike back on the bench and it's in bits. I've been riding this to work most days to give it a decent shakedown and work any bugs out of it, and it's been running great. Few carburation niggles, jetting's not quite perfect, but that's kind of what you'd expect on modern fuel. But on Friday, which was yesterday, as I was riding home, the engine was misbehaving a little bit and then it dropped onto only one cylinder. And I rode the majority of the journey home with only the front pot providing any power. And Morini's performed remarkably well under such circumstances. And the only real difficulty I had was in pulling away, where I had to slip the clutch quite a bit to make sensible progress. And we just had to deal with another little Morini inquiry there. Anyway, as I was saying, rode home on just the front cylinder, and you know, so the first thing was to investigate whether we had a spark, and yeah, we had a spark on the rear cylinder, no problem. The reputation of Morinis is that their ignition system is unreliable, and well, yeah, it's 30-40-year-old electronics can go, but I found them reliable in regular use. Next thing, of course, was fueling, so we dropped the float bowls off the carbs, and that certainly gave some cause for problems. If you look at that hideous sludge in the jug there, that's what was in the bottom of the fuel tank, and a fair amount of that was in the float bowls, but it was in both of them, so that wouldn't really tie up with having lost the rear cylinder. So I whipped the plug out, and you know, we hadn't lost an electrode or anything. Kicking the engine over, it was blowing air out of the spark plug hole. But screwing in a compression tester, we had no compression on the rear cylinder. And you can see that I've got the rear rocker box off and the rockers removed. And what had actually happened was that we'd stripped a rocker stud thread, and quite when that happened I don't know, but it had then worked the other rocker studs loose, and I think then this stud had given up entirely, and the valve gear came loose and it jumped the push rods out, which is when we which is probably actually why it performed quite so well, because you'd have been compressing some gas in the cylinder and then getting the energy back out again as it expanded. So obviously we lost the rear cylinder due to not having the valves opening and closing, and I've got to try and repair that thread and get everything back in service. The valve gear needs some repair work. This is the sorry, that's the rocker that's more or less okay. This is the one that received most damage. You can just see there's a mark there from, let's see if I can get into a more favourable lighting condition. So yeah, the end of the push rod has cut into the rocker a bit, but that can be tidied up. The side of the adjuster's been damaged. The push rods almost look as if nothing's happened to them. They're remarkably tough. Anyway, the valve gear was a little bit worn, and it's actually bent the rocker shaft. So I shall probably be raiding my spares stock. But the other thing I noticed, looking at, this is the solid block, you've also got a split one which clamps the shaft. But I don't know if you can see, but this the holes aren't in line. It's better from the top, but they're still off, and they're worse in the bottom, which means that one of the holes in there is not straight, as well as being off centre. So in any case, we've got to try and get a thread repair in there. So I've got the block that I've used previously to guide the drill, but we've got a lot of frame in the way, and I may be lucky, and I think that is the one hole that I can get lined up straight on and drill down, but I need to make an extension drill holder, so that's what we'll be doing on the lathe. I've got a bit of rod from the scrap box, and we'll drill it to take the drill from the thread repair kit. So this is an 8.3. Start off by centre drilling. Get a reasonable depth of hole in there. And we go straight in with something about 8mm. Now we're going with the actual tapping drill. I'll feed this quite slowly, and we should end up with a pretty accurately sized hole that will hold the drill nicely. So that fits in there with very little rock, so I need to drill and tap it for a clamping screw. So I'm just going to do a quick centre find on the bar here. So we'll zero off there. There's the kick. Y half. Coming to zero on the DRO. And that's the centre line. And grab a spotting drill. Need to check what size grub screw I've got and find an appropriate tap and drill. Okay, the grub screw I've got is an M5, so I've got a 4.2mm, or actually a number 19 drill for tapping. Possibly a little bit large, but it'll get the job done. And I use the jog button to go into low gear. And I'll just need to deburr that hole, and we'll see what we want to do about cutting the rod to length and prepping the other end to fit the drill. Okay, well there was a cross hole in the rod, so I chose to shorten it at that point. It's longer than it needs to be, but that's down the alignment block. That's that felled thread drilled out to the correct tapping size for the thread repair kit. And if I carefully extract the rag that I had in the head to collect all the swarf, but I might get in there with the vacuum cleaner first, just to be on the safe side. I've made another guide block. So this was the one for drilling. I've now got one for tapping. Before I've done it with by eye successfully, but with access being that much more awkward on this one, I've made the guide block. So I've got a square drive. Actually, this is a 9mm 12 point. Fits the end of the tap quite nicely. And I can... got a decent amount of trefoil X on the tap to help contain the chips. Now I've got a decent length of thread in there. I can take the guide block off because there's just not quite enough clearance. Should have caught that bit of swamp earlier. On the shank to go down the hole in the guide block. Clean the flutes of the tap out and get a bit more trefoil X. Okay, that's the bottom of the hole. Just about get in there, deburr it. Okay, that's ready for the thread insert. I've cleaned the hole out with some solvent, so now I'm just going to blow it clear. I've got the insert on the insertion tool, and hopefully there is enough room to get in here. I need to get the insert about a turn below the surface. that's fine, and hopefully that'll be that sorted. Just got to get all the studs back in and find another set of rockers to put on.